Hello, everyone. This is Jim Lucy, Editor-in-Chief for Electrical Wholesaling and Electrical Marketing with the January 23rd, 2023 edition of today's Electrical Economy Podcast, sponsored by Champion Fiberglass. Champion began producing epoxy fiberglass conduit and fittings in 1988, and in 1989 developed the first conduit from epoxy resins that had flame resistance and low smoke characteristics. This met the most stringent codes and specifications. In today's podcast, we'll discuss the latest 2023 construction forecast from the American Institute of Architects and look at December's electrical price index data from Electrical Marketing. We'll also check out some weekly economic indicators that can give you a sense of where the U.S. economy and electrical market may be headed. These 5 weekly indicators are initial unemployment claims at the state level, rail freight car traffic, the Baker Hughes rig count, oil prices, and copper prices. Our thanks again to Champion Fiberglass for sponsoring the Today's Electrical Economy series of podcasts for 2023. For the week ending January the 14th, the advanced figure for seasonally adjusted initial unemployment claims is 190,000. That's a decrease of 15,000 from the previous week's unrevised level of 205,000. The 4-week moving average for these claims was 206,000, and that's a decrease of 6,500 from the previous week's unrevised average of 212,500. The U.S. unemployment rate through December is 3.5%. We had 10 states with fairly large decreases in unemployment claims for the week ending the 14th. These states were New York with a decrease of 17,196, Michigan saw a decrease of 5,540, Georgia saw a decrease also over 5,000 with 572. They're down to 9,640 claims. New Jersey saw a decrease of 4,122. Wisconsin was down 3,760 claims. Texas was down 3,302 claims. Pennsylvania was down 2,811 claims. Tennessee is down 2,379 claims. South Carolina saw a decrease of 2,340. And Massachusetts saw a decrease of 2,059. Only 2 states showed an increase in claims of more than 1,000 for the week ending January 14th. California was up 4,640 claims, now standing at 64,470. Kentucky saw an increase of 2,570 claims. Their total initial and advanced claims are 5,453. The other 3 states in the top 5 were Nevada with an increase of 706 claims, Idaho with an increase of 316 claims, and Arkansas with an increase of 256 claims. An interesting leading indicator for the overall U.S. economy is freight rail traffic, and that's because it's a measure of the amount of raw materials and finished goods being shipped by rail. The best source for this data is the American Association of Railroads, or AAR, which publishes this data weekly. For the week ending January the 14th, total U.S. weekly rail traffic was 486,000 carloads and intermodal units. That is down 1.7% compared with the same week last year. Total combined U.S. traffic for the first 2 weeks of 2023 was 902,489 carloads and intermodal units. That's a decrease of 3.5% compared to this time last year. While the overall data for the week ending January the 14th was down for freight rail traffic, there actually were some pretty significant increases in quite a few freight categories. Compared to this time last year, motor vehicles and parts were up 13.5%. The shipment of petroleum products was up 12.6%. Coal was up 8.1%, and grain was up 8%. Forest products were down 9.3%, and intermodal units in total were down 9.2%. It will be interesting to see if this growth trend continues in many of these individual freight categories in the weeks ahead. If you track the oil market, you're probably familiar with the Baker Hughes rig count. This tracks the oil and gas rigs that are operating in the United States and Canada. The data is available by state, by basin, and nationally at www.rigcount.bakerhughes.com. This slide gives you an idea of the largest oil and gas deposits in the United States. It gives you a sense of just how many of these large oil plays are in Texas and Oklahoma, and how big an area the Marcellus gas region covers in Pennsylvania, Ohio, and parts of West Virginia. As has been the trend for quite some time, new rig installations have continued at slow but steady growth over the past 2 weeks. 5 new oil rigs began operation in the week ending January the 14th, and that brings the total oil rigs operating up to 623. That's up 131 rigs over 2022, and that's a 27% gain. New Mexico had 3 new rigs online just in the most recent data, and it's up 8 rigs over the last year to 103 total oil rigs operating. With 379 rigs total, Texas is up 98 rigs over last year for a 35% gain. The price for a barrel of West Texas Intermediate Oil, or WTI, is now up over $80 a barrel. On January the 20th, it was at $81.40. So far this year, the average price for a barrel of WTI is $77.47. Economists like to call copper pricing Dr. Copper because he's the leading economic indicator for future activity since copper is used in so many different industries. The construction industry is among the leading markets for copper because of its use in wire and cable and copper plumbing pipe. COMEX copper prices continued to climb in early 2023, and on the morning of January 23rd stood at $4.28 per pound. They have gained 46 cents per pound for a 12% increase so far this year. December prices on Electrical Marketing's Electrical Price Index, or EPI, were up again according to data from the S&P Global. Let's take a look at some of the biggest movers right now. If you would like to get Electrical Marketing's Electrical Price Index each month, as well as getting historical data going back to the 1990s, it's all available as part of a $99 annual subscription to Electrical Marketing newsletter. You can find out more information on subscriptions at www.electricalmarketing.com. When you look at the year-over-year changes, you can see that the total electrical price index was up 10.4% in December. The products with the biggest gains when you're looking at the year-over-year data were circuit breakers up 24% over this time last year, pole line hardware up 22.2%, switchgear up 21.6%, fuses were up 21.2%, power wire and cable up 20.6%, industrial controls on a year-over-year basis up 20.5%. Panel boards and switchgear also up for over 20% with a 20.3% gain year over year. Air conditioning equipment up 15.9%, boxes up 14.4%, and non-metallic conduit showing a 13.7% increase. For the month of December, the electrical price index as a whole was up 1.2% over the November data. Any monthly increase of more than 1% is significant, historically speaking. The products with the biggest monthly increases were circuit breakers up 11.3%, which is just huge. Panel boards and switches up 5.8%. Industrial controls up 5.5%. Power wire and cable up 3.4%. Fuses for the month up 2.8%. Air conditioning equipment up 2%. Conduit fittings up 1.4%. Also up 1.4%. Appliances, non-metallic conduit up 1.2%. Switchgear was up 1%, and building wire and cable also up 1%. One of my favorite construction forecasts is put out by the American Institute of Architects, or AAI. It's the annual consensus of construction forecast, which analyzes the data from leading construction economists. As you will see in the next few slides, AIA is fairly optimistic about the health of the construction industry in 2023. It does have some concerns already about 2024. AIA's Kermit Baker updates the forecast twice a year, and it's available at www.aii.org. Let's take a look at some of the numbers for the consensus construction forecast for 2023 and 2024. In total, for non-residential construction, AIA is expecting a 5.8% increase in construction over 2022. At that, their forecast does drop down to 0.8% for 2024. Some of the larger increases, as you can see on the slide, the industrial total, they're expecting another big increase. They're expecting a 15.1% increase in 2023. And that drops significantly to 0.4% next year in 2024 for the industrial. Another big increase, as you look at the chart here, hotels up 9.5% for 2023, dropping down to 5.3% for next year. Variance in the forecast from AIA's panel of construction experts. These folks have been tracking this news for many years, and they all have their own opinions and data from which they draw upon, but it is interesting to see the range of forecasts that are out there. As we mentioned earlier, the panel as a whole is looking for 5.8% growth in 2023 and 0.8% growth in 2024. Dodge Construction Network was the most optimistic for 2023, and it's looking for 13.7% growth. A new forecaster on the panel, Piedmont Crescent Capital, was the most bearish, and it is looking at a decline this year of 0.5%. For 2024, Construct Connect is most bullish. It's looking at 3.7% growth. Piedmont and Dodge were the most bearish, with forecasted declines of -2% growth. That wraps up our podcast for today. A special thanks to the folks from Champion Fiberglass for sponsoring the Today's Electrical Economy podcast series for 2023. Please contact me if there's any other type of economic data you would like us to cover in these podcasts. Our next presentation will be on February the 6th in 2023. I'll be out at the upcoming NEMR conference. I look forward to seeing many of you out there. Please stop by the electrical wholesaling booth if you have a few minutes to say hello. Until that next broadcast, take care, be healthy, be happy. Look forward to talking with you all very soon.